As the NFL world has now become accustomed to, whenever Dan Campbell steps in front of a microphone, you better be paying attention. Well, yesterday, Dan Campbell said something that sent shockwaves through the entire NFL, and we're going to talk about it in today's segment, folks, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lion.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, all Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. So, here's the thing, folks. I'm going to say this because I absolutely love Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is by far and in large one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and he is, without a doubt, in my opinion, probably one of, if not the best head coach in Lions football history. You can obviously talk about the coaches that were in the 50s that won the NFL championships, but it's like, listen, you take a look at everything that Dan Campbell has accomplished, turning the Lions football team around with the help of, Brad Holmes, Chris Spielman, and Sheila. It's like, listen, everything that he has accomplished, it's like you have to realistically put him up there in the high echelon of Lions football coaches and also in the high echelons of the NFL coaches right now. And that's great and grand to talk about. But I will say this. One thing that very few head coaches ever in NFL history will get over on Dan Campbell is his personality whenever he's in front of a camera or a microphone. I love whenever we get a chance to listen to this guy talk because I love his ideas. I love his spirit. I love his energy. I love how he approaches the game. And that kind of spirit, that kind of energy, it is then conveyed when he gets in front of cameras and in front of microphones. Because I'm just going to tell you this, he just has a knack to know what to say at the right time. Now, whether or not he plans it that way, I don't know. But for me, it's like, listen, whenever that man steps in front of a camera or a microphone, it is just like, oh, I better pay attention to this or else I'm going to miss something. Well, now, why am I saying this? Yesterday, Dan Campbell in an interview was asked, and it was kind of like a media session, he was asked about whether or not he considers this season for the Detroit Lions a Super Bowl or bust season. Now, we've heard this phrase before in several other times in the past because there are teams in the times past where it was like, listen, this is a team where, hey, they've got all the pieces, they're considered a contender, this is considered like their time, this is considered their best opportunity. So we'll have reporters that'll typically ask, hey, is this a Super Bowl or bust season? We've had analysts that'll also ask that question when they're going like in roundtable talks. And the basic premise of the whole thing is, hey, it's either you get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, or the Super Bowl or whatever. That's considered the goal. You have to win the Super Bowl. You have to get to the Super Bowl. You have to win it. Otherwise, the season is considered a failure. Now, I will say this. For most NFL players that are also kind of asked this question, because one of the most, I would say, prevalent people that were asked this question multiple times was Tom Brady. Tom Brady was asked one time about whether or not a certain season was considered a Super Bowl or bust season. I can't remember what season it was. But the answer that Tom Brady gave was like, listen, every season is a Super Bowl or bust season. That was in essence the answer he gave because he's like, listen, the ultimate goal of any team, of any player in the NFL from year to year is to get to the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl. If you don't win the Super Bowl, then it's considered a bust. The season is considered a failure because if the ultimate point of football is winning, and the ultimate, whatever accomplishment of the NFL is to win the Super Bowl, then that's your goal. That's what you have to do. If you don't do that, then yeah, the season's a bust. Now, I'm going to say this. The reason why I explained all that is because what Dan Campbell said yesterday in regards to that question, I have never heard before. Again, I don't know if Dan Campbell, like I said, pre-scripts these answers, like he already knows how he's going to answer them or not, or if he just comes up with them on the fly. But the answer he gave yesterday, I've never heard before, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was awesome. What Dan Campbell said when asked whether or not he views the 2024 season for the Lions a Super Bowl or bust season, he said, I don't see bust, I see Super Bowl. Talk about sending a warning shot around the NFL. Talk about pretty much staking your flag in the middle of the NFL and saying, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're winning the Super Bowl. I don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. I don't give a damn what anybody else wants to tell us. We're going to the Super Bowl. We're winning the Super Bowl. That's exactly what that statement states to me. That is exactly what that says. And here's the reason why. When I take a look at that statement, what Dan Campbell is in essence saying is like, listen, I don't see us having a failing season. I don't see us having a bust season. I see us going to the Super Bowl. I see us winning the Super Bowl. That's exactly what Dan Campbell is saying. It's like, listen, it's not a Super Bowl or bust season like, oh, it's one or the other. He's pretty much saying, no, there is no other. We're going to the Super Bowl. We're winning the Super Bowl. It's that simple. It is that straightforward. And the best way I can describe this is like, listen, you have to take a look at what the Lions have done over the last couple of years, but most importantly, what happened last year. The Lions last year were considered a team that had the best shot to win the NFC North. They were considered a team that had a really good shot of making a playoff run. But most people kind of look at the Lions like saying, hey, they might win a playoff game, they might win two, but they're not going to the Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen. Not this year, at least, anyway. What happens? Lions, like everyone predicted, they won the NFC North Division crown. Okay, good for them. They checked that box off. Then they get to the playoffs. They win their first playoff game in 30 plus years against the Rams. All right, now you've checked that box off. You've won the division crown. You've won a playoff game. But then the Lions continue to do more and more. They won their second playoff game. Now they're in the conference championship game. Everyone's like, man, the Lions they're really proving something that we weren't expecting them to potentially do. And then we got to halftime against the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm telling you this right now. If ever there was a moment where a lot of people in the NFL were like having an oh my God kind of moment, it was at halftime in that game. Because it was like, we're up 17 points on the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. And it's not even looking particularly close. Because again, you go back and you check this out. Virtually every NFL analyst, virtually all the betting places had the 49ers beating the Lions. Nobody had the Lions winning that game. Nobody. And at halftime, we were up 17 points. And again, if not for a couple of bad plays in the second half, the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble, the couple of drops by Josh Reynolds, and where we weren't really running the ball all that much in the second half, and then the defense was kind of falling asleep against Brock Purdy and his wide receivers, we would have gone to the Super Bowl. Like I've said it before, I'll keep saying it. We were one quarter away. We were a whisker from going to the Super Bowl. Think about it. When Dan Campbell keeps all that in perspective, there's no reason why in my mind he wouldn't go with that thought process. He wouldn't go with that statement because it's like, listen, we were that close to getting to it last year. And if I look at what Dan Campbell's probably looking at, he's like, listen, this team's probably improved from where it was last year. All of our young guys are better than what they were last year. Our veterans are better than what they were last year. We've added more talent than what we had last year. So it's a better team than what it was last year. And this team is super hyper focused on getting to the Super Bowl, on winning the Super Bowl. Because you have to think about it. I'm in the Army. Everybody knows this. Well, think about it this way. Dan Campbell is the general. He's the leader. He's the guy that gives the marching orders. Well, think about it. Dan Campbell just gave his marching orders yesterday. He's like, listen, guys, it's not Super Bowl or bust. We're going to the damn Super Bowl. We are going to win the damn Super Bowl. And I guarantee you this. You go and ask everybody else in that locker room, from the freaking management on down, all the players, they will probably give you a very similar mindset, a very similar idea, a very similar thought process to what Dan Campbell did yesterday in that media session. Because that's where they get their inspiration from. That's where they get their orders from. Again, we've seen how Dan Campbell is a motivational leader and how he is able to get these players to do things in ways that most people thought they probably were never going to be able to do, or get more out of them than what people thought they were able to do. That's the kind of impact that Dan Campbell has. And here's the best way I can think about this as well. People have said this in the past. It's kind of a little bit of a psychology element here, but think about this. The more you say it, the more you come to believe it. I guarantee you this as well. The entire offseason, ever since that NFC Conference Championship game, and you take your time to reflect and get over it, Dan Campbell's probably been spouting the same thing over and over again. Don't worry, guys. We're going to be back here next year. We're going to the Super Bowl. And I guarantee you this, he has ingrained that thought process. He has ingrained that message. He has ingrained that entire philosophy into them. And if you take a look at what the Lions have done this entire offseason, that is exactly what they are gunning for. They are not gunning for to have a successful season without getting to the Super Bowl. They are planning on going to the Super Bowl. They are planning on winning the Super Bowl. You re-sign, you extend Jared Goff, you extend Amon-Ra St. Brown, you extend Penei Sewell, you go out, you draft Terrion Arnold and Enos Rakestraw, you sign DJ Reader, you sign Kevin Zeitler, you trade for Carlton Davis. The Lions, they are making every move that they can to be like, listen, this is our season. We are going to the Super Bowl. We are going to win the Super Bowl. And when Dan Campbell was asked that question, again, it was like someone gave him a bullhorn, and he pretty much just entirely told the NFL, listen, this is what we're doing this year. And if you try to get in our way, all hell's coming for you. We are going to the Super Bowl. We are going to win the Super Bowl. That's why I say it's a shocking statement. Because again, this is the Detroit Lions here. The Detroit Lions are a team that most people don't consider, part because of their history, a team that is ever going to win this Super Bowl. But it's like, listen, you take a look at Dan Campbell, you take a look at this team, you take a look at Brad Holmes, Sheila, Chris Spielman, the whole lot of them. It's like, listen, folks, the Lions, they are a team to take very, very seriously, because if you don't, you're going to get steamrolled. This is a team that has every viable component to it to be able to win. Has a hell of a good offensive line, a strong running game, a lethal, deadly passing game, and it has a defense that, even though we haven't seen the pass defense get better yet, it has a suffocating run defense. If the pass defense can just be average, this is a team that can go to the Super Bowl and can win the Super Bowl. That's why I'm saying what Dan Campbell said yesterday sent shockwaves through the NFL. It's music to us Lions fans' ears, but to the rest of the NFL, it's like, okay, somebody just sounded off and we better pay attention. Otherwise, we might be in trouble. But anyway, folks, I just decided to talk about this because I was like, damn, somebody just sent shockwaves here. Somebody just literally raised the flag and planted it in the NFL's heart and said, this is our territory now. That's what I got from that message. But anyway, I'm going to end the segment, and I just want to say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and now had a chance to do so, again, I highly, highly encourage y'all to subscribe. It helps me out, and I'm ever so thankful. But I also want to encourage y'all, please, to make sure you also hit that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Again, we want you guys to keep coming back to the channel as soon and as quickly as possible, and the best way to do that is to make sure you have that notification icon turned on, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. I also encourage y'all to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you possibly can with everybody and anybody that you possibly can. And with that, folks, I just want to say again, thank you all for watching the content. I hope you enjoyed the content. I also hope you have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. And with that being said, God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.